Hello, I'm Caroline and I wanted to pop on here and film a short video about scope creep because I've recently done an article about managing projects and what architects need to think about as part of ensuring that project is completed on time and within budget. And one of the biggest problems that can arise with a project is something called scope creep. So what scope creep fundamentally is it's where a project starts out with the intention of this, and gradually over the course of the project it changes and it becomes something very different. So there's a gradual increase in the demands that are being placed on that project and the requirements of your clients, which is having an effect on your original starting point for that project. That's inevitably going to have an increase in both the costs that are associated with that project and also the timing of that project as well. So what's really important to do is at the start of the project is that the project scope is clearly defined. So that is a very key part of the process at the beginning, and it involves looking at exactly what you want the project to achieve. It involves talking to all the different stakeholders that are involved in that project and making sure that everybody's got a really clear understanding of exactly what that project is going to be for and exactly what that project is going to achieve. Once you've got that really clearly set out project scope, then it's important that you keep that on track, and if you find that you're changing things, then you are suffering from scope creep. But what's the problem with scope creep, you may ask? Because at the end of the day, you're creative people, you all want to produce projects which are both beautiful in design and functional, sustainable, and meet your clients' needs. But actually what happens with scope creep is it has a real impact on the costs associated with that project. It can cause problems with the timing of those projects, because suddenly something that should be taking 3 months then takes 4, then takes 5, which has an impact on your workflow generally across your practice altogether. And with scope creep as well, there's a potential for clients to become unhappy, because if things are constantly changing and it's not clear who's responsible or why things are changing or what's happening as a result of that, then you may ultimately end up with unhappy clients or projects that don't meet the original needs of those clients at all, and which you may then struggle to bill for the extras associated with that project. So what causes scope creep is the fact that ultimately nobody wants to see a project fail. Everybody wants to see projects achieve everything that they can and be the very best that they can. And we're all very nice people. We don't always want to have those difficult confrontational conversations with our clients about needing to charge extra fees for different things, or how it's going to be more expensive to make some changes, and sometimes it's easier just to carry on with that project, but ultimately that is going to have an impact on your practice. So project scope is made worse if your projects aren't closely managed, if it's not really clear from the outset exactly what that project is meant to be achieving, if there's poor communication between either your internal team or your client and yourselves or the other stakeholders involved in the projects, all of that is going to have an impact on the project and how it runs. Sometimes as well, if you have too many stakeholders, if there are too many people involved in that project, it can get confusing as to whose needs you're actually trying to meet, and that can be a tricky balance as well. You need to ensure that your practice has got clear procedures for dealing with changes to projects. If those changes are closely managed, then you're having the conversations that you need to have to ensure that everybody knows exactly what needs to be happening with the projects. You know exactly who's paying for the work that's going to be done. Your fees are agreed in advance, which prevents problems later on, and it just means that everyone's got a very clear understanding, and if that process is always followed, then it should reduce your problems with scope creep. To prevent scope creep on your projects, it's really important that you're using software that can help you manage those projects through efficiently, track all your changes, ensure that you've got a really clear project scope set out from the very beginning of that project, make sure that everybody involved in that project knows exactly what that scope is, and also that everyone's communicating. Communication is key in all walks of our lives, and if people aren't communicating, things aren't going to be successful. So use a good piece of software, ensure you're communicating, and make sure everybody is working to the clearly set out project scope at the very beginning of the project. Hopefully, if you can do all of those things, you'll reduce scope creep on your projects, and your projects will be completed more quickly or efficiently and on time and within budget as well. If you'd like to have a chat with me about different types of software that can help you manage your projects, some of which can actually interact with your accounting systems as well to make your internal processes much more efficient as well, then please do just drop me a message.